a lot of you don't know Greg Miller personally. A lot of you actually do. But like, but like, yeah, if it was the thing where all of us started to distance ourselves from Greg Miller, or everybody started to distance themselves from me around the company, right? And like, like things came out about that. You don't need to defend Greg Miller. You don't need to defend me. Like, you don't personally know us as people. And then that is the wait and see of, all right, cool, I'm not going to catch judgment. Let me wait and see until all this information comes out before I start to defend or like try to make arguments about, no, this person's actually a good person, because you don't know the person who's behind the screen.
Yeah. And I think, you know, again, it's the narrative that feeds itself, where I would imagine most of the people who are out there defending Doc Disrespect are the same people who are constantly screaming about cancel culture and how they're being persecuted and how this is, you know, all these things that I think are patently false in so many different ways, right? So then to have this happen and have, like, let's also talk about, like, and I don't mean to paint with a broad brush, but like, the way Kind of Funny works and the way Greg Miller as an internet personality works is, right, that I fuck up all the time. And when I fuck up, I sit there with my actions and decide, did I fuck up or did I not? How do I want to handle it? What do I want to do? Blah, blah. And it's a conversation with the audience. And so, okay, sure, there's all this, you know, Dr. Disrespect. There's the, they signed NDAs. You know, the statement we read from this article is much better than the original statement, which was like, no wrongdoing was found or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck are you trying to, like, that's one thing. But then to have it be that it breaks on air and then you launched into this, you know what? I was getting ready for a vacation anyway. You know, and I'm burned out. I'm doing this. You know what? I might even leave Midnight Society when the news is out that you've been let go from it. You know what I mean? It's like, come on. Like, this isn't cancel culture. Cancel culture, I still to this day does not believe. To this day, I believe cancel culture doesn't exist. Cancel culture, when I was growing up, was called the consequence of your actions. And so I'm allowed to come out here right now, and I'm allowed to say, I think this is so similar to Trump. I don't think you should vote for Trump in the presidential election, right? And if there's a huge blowback from the audience that says, I can't be here and I don't want to support this and I understand that. That is then you leaving. That's not me screaming, oh, this is cancel culture. I can't say anything? Freedom of speech doesn't exist? No, motherfucker, this is freedom of speech. You're allowed to say what you think. I'm allowed to say what I think. And if you don't agree with me and that's enough for you to be like, I don't want to support you on Patreon. I don't want to do this. I don't want to watch the show. More power to you. I respect that. Vote with your wallet. Vote with your time. Go and do your own thing, right? But to sit here and be like, but they're being persecuted. You can't say this. You know what I mean? You can't, you know what I mean? Like, what are we talking about? How is this? How are these same conversations continuing? And how are audiences that are not our audience, you know, I mean, 1,000% not our audience, but audiences on the internet being fed this fucking pool of lies that they continue to go to and think about the fact that, oh my God, well, Nick Merckx can't insult fucking trans people. Freedom of speech is dead. Fuck you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Trans lives matter. Protect trans kids. What are we talking about?
Yeah.
Like, this isn't fucking hard. Let human beings be human beings. And when people are like, well, I don't want to support Nick Merckx anymore. Oh, what? Oh, he's not allowed to have an opinion? No, you can have a fucking opinion, and I can have a fucking opinion too, and that he's a dirtbag, and I don't want to be around this anymore.
Yeah.
It makes me so angry and so riled up, and it comes back to the same thing of like, I guess, again, this isn't a pat on the back. It's going to sound like I'm trying to get myself, but I guess to exist doing this in front of a camera for as long as I have, for 17 years, will include, you know, beyond and writing articles and everything else, right? It's just the fact that everything I say and do, I understand has some weight to it. And again, when I fuck up or somebody calls me out and they ask me to do something to make it easier for them or their group or whatever, it's like, oh man, what a great point. Or maybe it isn't, and I don't agree with it. I don't take that piece of credit. But like, this is such a relationship that I look at this and I'm like, how can you be this big and fuck it up this badly?
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, what? And like, and then for your fallback to constantly be like, listen, I got paid. I got fucking paid. Oh, okay. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of people get paid when they settle out of court for, you know, not having to go do whatever the fuck they needed to do. But like, what the fuck is going on here? Who's to say? But it is more disappointing to see the way the internet reacts.
Yeah.
And again, I know this is not limited to Dr. Disrespect fans. I know this isn't limited to video games, but just the overwhelming disbelief of evidence. That it just doesn't matter anymore. That you can present something and be like, here, it's clear as day. This is not clear as day necessarily in this case, but like something's going on and be like, fuck you, that's wrong.
Yeah.
I believe the guy in the shades and the fake wig more than all this other people. And I mean, again, Midnight Society does such a great job of boiling their message down in the exact same way I think we do it Kind of Funny. Hey, there are 55 developers here. That is a small team. ladies, gentlemen, and NBs. That is a small team trying to make a video game. And they hitched their wagon to somebody who had a big profile, and now that profile is completely tarnished. You assume, I assume, not going to rebound from this, and if it does, not have the audience they want.
Oh, yeah.
So they have to
And,
do
like,
this, and like, guess
even on
what? The
top of-
game is fucking dead, probably.
On top of that, right, like if they miraculously get to a place where they finally release a game or the game they're working on, that's gonna be met with probably so much vitriol from the audience that are the Dr. Disrespect super fans that go and like that way outweigh the Midnight Society super fans, right?
Oh,
Because
for
Dr. Disrespect was the personality bringing people in. All those people are gonna look at that game and probably review bomb it and be like, "Oh, fuck
yeah,
this!
yeah,
oh
yeah.
like we're not supporting this. Oh, you guys went against Dr. Disrespect." Even if the Dr. Disrespect stuff, even if the like proof or whatever comes out and like 100% is solidified of, oh, he is guilty, that is not going to stop people from not supporting that man, right? And I think that's where I come back to, one, the scary aspect of where like I guess personality worship has settled in terms of the 2024 internet and just public consciousness, but then also the media literacy aspect of it, what we're talking about, where it is, all right, we've seen Midnight Society separating themselves. We've seen Twitch let them go. We've seen now, what was it, Turtle Beach that, you know, has terminated their contract with them. We're seeing all these different things, all these different dominoes fall, and people still don't want to read the tea leaves, and at the very least not stop defending him, right? They're still going to jump and defend him. That alone is like a, damn, like we really got to do better at educating people how to like fucking read tea leaves. But then, you know, I think to your point, and you made a lot of points, right? Like, to one of your, to one of your points in there, right? Like, it comes back to when this is a separate thing, but when I like go online and I'm compiling news for KFGD, and like I'll see people, I can't remember the latest one. There was like one recently where somebody's talking about their, like, they're reporting on a thing and they were referencing like their sources. It might have been related to Dr. Disrespect, but they're talking about their sources, and people are like, oh, so you're just making this up? What do you mean that you have sources? Oh, it's like, bro, that's how journalism works. Like, that's how this all works. People still find ways to miss the point. I don't know if it's something wrong with our education system. I know our education system in a lot of ways is fucked, but like, I don't know if it's just that. I don't know if it is we got to teach people not to identify so strongly with the people that they listen to our podcast or watch on Twitch or YouTube or whatever. And that is me including us in this, right? Like,
parasocial relationships is a thing a lot of people are looking into, right?
Yeah.
And how they feel about it and how it can affect you.
yeah, but like, there's a list of things that made me go, oh man, we're so cooked. Like, we're so fucked in terms of how the reaction has been to all of this. But I do feel so much for Midnight Society as far as that. Like, I'm glad they did the due diligence. I forget when the studio was founded, like what year they came up, but like, if it was like post 2020, I'm surprised that they made that deal in the first place. I get that Dr. Disrespect is a
They
man with
founded 2021.
2021. I get Dr. Disrespect is a man that had so much power and money and like, you know, so much visibility, and like that is a slam dunk if you connect yourself with the personality of that caliber. But I feel like that around that time, the Tea Leaves as a studio being founded under him, I think, you know, going in there, that is somewhat of a risk. And like, I'm sorry that it panned out this way, right? But again, good on them for going, oh, we got to separate. We got to make the statement, probably knowing that is probably going to lead to the end of that studio in the next couple of years. You imagine, if not way sooner than that.
I don't know. Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know.
Maybe
if it'll
next
be that
couple months.
long,
Like,
right?
we'll
Where
see.
It's like, I'm not at all the Midnight Society, you know, it's a vertical extraction shooter, right? I remember when they did the beta, and chat, please feel free to jump in and tell me stuff. And super chats obviously have been coming, you know, we'll do all this different stuff. I forget if the game's not out. They've done a beta, and I thought it was possibly done well. I don't know. I thought people liked it. I can't remember if people liked it or not. Or
I think I remember something about like NFT integration.
Yeah, I remember that, but I remember, I can't, you know, Rocker says started as NFT game. Did it move away from that, or is it still there?
I mean, at this point, hopefully they moved away.
My whole thing is I just feel like
doing
it's probably a quagmire to begin with of where that game's at and what it's been doing. So if you ever see that game, yeah, I doubt you ever see that. Yeah, which, you know, again, were you ever going to see it before? I'd imagine probably if you have Dr. Disrespect, you have that dedicated of an audience behind him that he could say, hey, this game's out and play it with me and do the thing. Yeah, you probably sell it and move it. Whereas now, yeah, you lose that fan base. Not only do you lose that fan base, you make an enemy out of that fan base, who now, to your point, are going to review bomb it and only talk shit about it, yada yada. I imagine. Again, okay. FTL says last I saw pre-alpha, very rough. Obviously,
that's what I feel. Yeah, like I'm remembering back to like footage we saw of it. I forget if it was just like a reveal trailer or some kind of pre-alpha. I remember it looking rough, but also it's like super early, and so it's really tough to judge at that state. But it wasn't a thing that I looked at and was excited for, and I don't recall that many people outside of like Dr. Disrespect fans like being like, oh, this is the one. Like, this is the one that we're all excited for.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I don't know. I think in the first place, even if it was to come out, I wouldn't have expected it to be the next Call of Duty or whatever they're pitching it to be.
Yeah.
But now it definitely won't be.
Yeah, what that ends up, we'll have to wait and see or whatever. No. I'm looking into super chats here. A lot have come in. Okay, Cozy Bear is advertising he's returning to Happy Hour today. That's great. Only
Shout out
special
Cozy Bear.
feature says, we love you, Cozy Bear. He's got a great question you want on this. Only special features, I believe. Bad Bunny has a song called Booker T. Great. This is for, I'm trying to get to. Okay, here. Spider says 3
I
companies,
get all the
including
Bad
one he
Bunnies mixed
co-founded,
up. There's
chose
like
to
3
cut
Bad
ties with
Bunnies.
him. Pretty sure they'd lose money by doing so. Not illegal is not the same as not damning. And that's the other part of it. Again, we don't know, blah, 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 reading into it. One of the ones I thought was interesting in terms of a tweet that I haven't looked into in any way, shape, or form in terms of the actual legality of it. But it was an interesting one of, it was like, hey, reminder that age of consent laws aren't so that a 30-year-old, and I'm talking broadly, can date a 16-year-old in whatever state they're in. They're so that 2 16-year-olds can have sex and not go to jail for it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not meant to be this get out of jail free card, they're an adult thing. Like, it is your consent, but that doesn't if that is, again, like, different for what it is, you know.
Yeah.
So we're on 4-4. Cam says Greggy has to drop a Not Like Us remix against these weirdos. I don't think I'll be doing that. Mara says,
put me in a booth.
can we please
Alright, I
get
got
Greg
you.
defending trans rights clipped out? Appreciate you, his heart. No problem. George Corona III says Greg is going off, dropping truth. Proud to be a member today, even with his perplexing love of Starfield. Starfield's a great game. Don't worry about that.
Great.
Alexander says, is the Dr. Disrespect situation similar to Colin and Kinda Funny? I don't think so. I don't remember a point where Colin got news on a Twitter and was like, I'm gonna take a vacation for Kinda Funny. Nor did Colin left Kinda Funny. We didn't we didn't tweet out, Colin, we're cutting ties with Colin or whatever. And that's not how that situation went at all. We all hugged on a show when he left, and then obviously we've all talked about it at length since then. Sydney says, hey Greg, thanks for being blunt with your left-wing leanings. I work in tech, but my Puerto Rican coworker is a toxic masculine Trump supporter. I don't know if I helped turn him around. I don't know if I did anything there, but again, this is what I'm talking about, is the fact that you have to own all of this. If we're going to exist on the internet, everything we've done on the internet exists on the internet. You have a conversation, we're going to be a part of this. So like, it's one of those things where it's still hard I don't want to just get into the weeds with Dr. Disrespect thing, right?
Yeah.
But I so can't fucking stand people in our space who want to hide behind something. Like, whatever, say what you gotta fucking say. That's what you're there to do. That's what it is. And when the times get tough and you're gonna then take a vacation, come on.
Ooh,
You know what I
I
mean?
almost
Come
lost
on.
everything.
And again, if you have nothing to hide, I'm not saying, and again, like, I'm not trying to be the opposite of this. So many people are like, the evidence in the angry way of like, you can't remove him from a company and do this stuff if you don't have evidence. Like, I don't think we need that evidence. That's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because again, we are also talking about if there's been something that's gone wrong here, there's another party involved who is a victim, by definition, right? So I don't need that as much. But it is the other thing of like, back to it. Cancel culture doesn't exist. It is the consequence of your actions. And if when you are called out for your actions, your response is, I was gonna take a vacation anyway. I'm burned out. I'm gonna, you know what I mean? Like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna add something that Greg wouldn't say, or maybe he doesn't believe. But not only does cancel culture not exist, the reason why people get it confused is because there are times when people overreact, or they make a decision to react in a certain way that's not really congruous. Hold on, let me look that word up. Hold on a second. Congruent? Yeah, congruent. In agreement with, or in harmony with the action. From whether if it's from other experiences or just doesn't make sense logically. Here's the problem with that. Nobody has to stand with you when you make a decision. This is the problem with this country we live in, America. Okay? People think when they make a decision that they deserve some kind of leeway or respect for making a decision and running that way. No, you don't. You can do whatever you want. You're not owed respect. You're not owed applause for doing it. You're not owed even understanding for making that decision. When we talk about freedom of speech and your rights, your freedoms, you have a right to do certain things as long as they don't affect other people. And you don't have a right to have an audience or a support when you make that decision. That's just up to you to do it and then deal with whatever comes after it.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's for him to reckon with, right? Like, again, I'm so outside of the like I'm so outside of the Dr. Disrespect sphere.
Yeah,
of,
me
like,
too. Me
content
too. And
behavior
that's
or
the
whatever.
thing. Yeah, right.
And I'm like, cool, do whatever the fuck you're gonna do. Deal with your shit. Like, take a break. I don't give a fuck. Shit doesn't look good for you, but do your thing. As far as the cancel culture aspect of it, right? And like, I'm with you as far as like, there is what you say and there's a reaction to what you say, and I think a lot of that is enhanced by internet. A lot of that is enhanced now by like people having histories on the internet, and like you can go and search people's tweets from however long ago, and like, you know, people, that stuff will get brought up. And I think there's a whole conversation around that, and like how some of that is it okay, is it not okay, like when does it become too much. Like, I'm down for that conversation, right? But yeah, I think as far as the conversation of, oh man, like they're trying to get Dr. Disrespect out of here because yada yada yada, it's like, nah, man, people are just having a reaction to like seeing a thing being revealed about a person. If I don't know, I feel like this apply. I feel like it's so common sense that it feels weird to even just talk about it in that sense. But like, yeah, if a celebrity or like a personality is revealed to be texting children or messaging children through Twitch whispers and trying to meet up with them at TwitchCon, yeah, I should be able to go, ooh man, don't want to support that person. That person is somebody who I want to distance myself from. Like, I think for me that's just common sense. And for like the businesses that are separating themselves from them, it's so common sense.
And I think that's back to my thing, is that this is a common sense argument.
Yeah.
I think you can look at so many of our peers in our space who have been called out for offensive tweets they did as college students, as younger content creators, right? And that are still here and still have a booming career.
Yeah.
Why? Because they got called out for that, and they were like, yeah, I was a dumb fuck kid. Yeah, I didn't understand X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Blah, blah.
Or
I'm Greg Miller. I've existed doing this for 17 years. You can go read my IGN reviews, and there are, oh my God, ridiculously heinous things I put in leads and if you brought them up to me now, we would have a long conversation about it, just like this, of like, yeah, I was trying to get a joke over with the thing. I was encouraged. That's what, there's not
All right,
excuses,
what's the next
reasons. And I
trophy
would
I
then tell
need?
you, what I back and what I don't back and yada, yada. And then it would be up to you to decide if the lead I had in whatever GameX PSP review affects your opinion of me now, to the point when, again, I think the whole point of this is that 17 years later, I should not be the same person. 17 years later, I should have met and gone to enough places and experienced enough cultures and expanded my own mind that I can look back on my stuff objectively and be like, yeah, that was offensive and stupid.
For the record, there's also the other side of people that double down on those shitty things, and guess what? Their views skyrocketed.
But again,
they became grifters, and we're like, shit, I'm making the more money than I've ever made before because I have found an audience that for some reason will follow the shitty things that I'm saying because I'm speaking to either the anti-cancel culture people, or I'm speaking to like a right-wing crowd of people, or like far-right crowd of people, right? Like, it's so crazy how, yeah, it goes the other way a lot of times, and it's the opposite of what we call cancel culture, right? Like, usually,
but they'll still say it's cancel culture.
They'll still say it's cancel culture.
I've been ostracized, but I'm still bigger than ever.
The biggest victims of cancel culture are making more money than they ever have before. Dr. Disrespect is going to come out of this probably like,
that's a great.
He's probably
going to
come. Yeah, he's probably going to come back. Probably maybe take a little bit of a break. Maybe take a 3-month break. Come back, start streaming. Guess what? His audience is gonna go, we missed you. Here's a bunch of subs. Here's here's all of us returning for the return of Dr. Like, he's probably gonna come out of this making way more money than before, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
And that's like, again, this comes back to the scary thing about all this, and where I'm at from the beginning of this, which is like, how do we rehabilitate these people? Like, how do we reach these people? Is there any reaching these people? The sad answer might be no. Like, the sad answer might be, this is just the way the world works, and we just gotta roll with it. But yeah, that makes me extremely sad. Like, that breaks my heart. But yeah, like, that's just, it's the way that it seems like things just are.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what to do.
I mean, there's nothing you can do. There's nothing we can do. You talk, and I think even like the positive audience we have, right? Because again, I'm sure many of you have been here a long time, but the message has always been, right? Like, If you're an asshole, we don't want your money, we don't want your view, you don't need to be here, right? Because we're understanding what a community is and what we want our community to be and how we prune the community to be what it needs to be here. And we say things. And again, I say things every day. I make jokes every day that I'm sure people go, oh my God, I'm fucking out of here. And they never come back. That again is building something, because you can't make something for everybody. That'll never work. You need to make something that you want to be making and that'll make you happy and do whatever. And so you can do that and try to foster a positive community like we do, or you can go off and do exactly what you're talking about, where, yeah, you can keep feeding the trolls and keep giving into the narrative of cancel culture and this, that, the other, and I've been pushed out and it was blah, blah. It's like, okay, you know what I mean? Again, like, there's never a way for me to put myself in these kind of situations, because I wouldn't put myself in these kinds of situations. But again, like, my reaction, of course, to if I had made such an error and lapse in judgment would be to own it and talk about it and atone for it and figure it out and go through that. The easier way is to fuck off, come back with a narrative that, ah, man, everybody's wrong, I'm right.
Yeah.
You guys are the true believers for following me.
They went after Greg Miller because he was white and a man.
And I won't lie, like, I have been noticing. The walls are closing in on me, Bless. You know what I mean? There's fewer and fewer of me on the internet.
I can't wait to be CEO. It's gonna happen.
Thank you all for hanging out for a very lively conversation.
Thanks for having this conversation. I put this story number one because I don't know what else like we're gonna have as a conversation for story number one.
Dude, this is the whole fucking point of what we do. And again, and I think, you know, I've seen the people who are mad in the chat as well, of course. Hello, I'd like to make a quick statement. Let's cut the fucking bullshit. As you know, there's no filter with me. I've always been upfront and real with you guys on anything I can be upfront about, and I'm always willing to accept responsibility.
Also,
which
being real, way
which
too
is
much
why I'm here
credit
now.
given.
First and foremost, I do want to apologize to everyone in my community, as well as those close to me, my team, and everyone at Midnight Society Game Studio.
Not genuine.
A lot of people have been left in the dark about what happened yesterday with Midnight Society and and we made the painful decision collectively to have me step down.
They're lying.
Our team is full of incredibly talented and good people
One
that
of the
have high
things that
career
bothers me
ambitions
most as an
and
adult
families,
is when
and I never want to
people
jeopardize the
will
culture
look you
we've
dead now. You
carefully
caught them in a
crafted.
lie, or you know they're lying. They just
Everyone
keep
has been
lying
wanting to
anyway.
know
Keep
why
it
I
up.
was
It's
banned
like,
from
what are
Twitch.
you doing?
But
Like, I'm not
for reasons
stupid.
outside of
What
my
do you-
control, I was not allowed to
If
say
we're ever
anything
gonna get
for the
anywhere,
past
be
several
friends.
years.
We gotta
Now
cut
that
this
two
out.
former Twitch employees
And
have
they don't.
publicly
They double
disclosed
down
the accusations, I can
on
now
a
tell
lie
you my
that
side
you know
of the
is a lie.
story
It's
regarding the
crazy.
ban. Were there Twitch whisper messages with an individual in 2017? Question mark. The answer is yes. Were there intentions behind these messages? The answer is absolutely not.
Were there real intentions?
Sorry, thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's a wall of text to read aloud. These were casual, mutual conversations that sometimes leaned too much in the direction of being inappropriate, but nothing more. Nothing illegal happened. No pictures were shared. No crimes were committed. I never even met the individual. I went through a lengthy arbitration regarding a civil dispute with Twitch, and that case was resolved by a settlement. Let me be clear. It was not a criminal case against me, and no criminal charges have ever been brought against me. Now, from a moral standpoint, I'll absolutely take responsibility. I should have never entertained these conversations to begin with. That's on me. That's on me as an adult, a husband, and a father. It should have never happened. I get it. I'm not perfect, and I'll fucking own my shit. This was stupid. Now, with all that said, don't get it fucking mistaken. I've seen all the remarks and labels being thrown around so loosely. Social media is a destruction zone. I'm no fucking predator or pedophile. Are you kidding me? Anyone that truly knows me fucking knows where I stand on those things with those types of people. Fuck that. That's a different level of disgust that I fucking hate even hearing about. Don't be labeling me as the worst of the worst with your exaggerations. Get the fuck out of here with that shit. But I think I've said what I needed to say regarding the ban itself. That's it. That's why Twitch made the decision in 2020.
I gotta say this. You know how easy it is to not talk to minors? It's as simple as this. Don't show any attention or get too comfortable with anyone on how you talk to them until you get to know them. That's how adults handle it. They don't get themselves in these situations. If you don't know how old somebody is, for real, if you can't tell on a maturity level or you got some kind of hint of how old they are, you don't bother saying certain things to them. Because you're an adult. You've been alive long enough to know better. Clearly this man has it. Part partly to do with his success and his fame. He doesn't really think about these things. But
Should I
this
do
is all
something more
BS
productive?
because clearly he did it. Clearly he made a mistake. And he needs to just own up to it. But instead he's like, oh, well, I'm not a scumbag. You kind of are. You're just not an intentional scumbag. Maybe. But just own up to it.
My team, community, and industry friends that have supported me, I apologize. I wish I could have said all this sooner. You guys have always showed me and my family love and support throughout all these years. We love you guys like you can't imagine. I have the fucking best community and circle. If any of this has made you uncomfortable, I get it. You don't have to support me anymore, but just know you have always been greatly appreciated. But trust me when I say this, ... To all my haters that live and breathe social media with zero real life experience, I don't give a fuck about you. Finally, if you're uncomfortable with this entire statement and think I'm a piece of shit, that's fine. But I'm not fucking going anywhere. I'm not the same guy that made the mistake all those years ago. I'm taking an extended vacation with my family, as mentioned on the stream, and coming back with a heavy weight off my shoulders. They want me to disappear. ... Yeah, fucking right.
What the fuck? That's crazy, dude. Him saying this part specifically where he says, were there Twitch whisper messages with an individual back in 2017? The answer is yes. Were there real intentions behind these messages? The answer is absolutely not.
So what were the messages?
These were casual, mutual conversations that sometimes lean too much in the direction of being inappropriate, but nothing more. Nowhere in this does he deny
but that's the problem we're
person being a
having.
minor,
The,
which
the,
is like nowhere.
The issue is you're admitting what you did wrong. You just don't agree on the severity of what you did. But what people usually don't understand with these things is there's a thin line when you're dealing with people on the internet you don't know well and how fast things can go wrong and someone can be a victim of something and get taken advantage of. There's a very thin line. There's a very short window of when you need to recognize you're doing something bad and leave the situation. That's why so many people get confused and why they don't think somebody did something bad. It's not that they didn't do something wrong. It's anyone who's actually cares about protecting minors knows how fast these things can go bad. So that's the issue. It's not that he didn't do anything wrong. It's an actual literal slippery slope. Because for PDF files, a lot of them can't help what they're doing. And some of them don't care anymore. They have this urge and they'll do anything to satisfy it. And some of them are kind of borderline. But the point is, if there's ever a chance you're going to regret it, we got to be hard on these people. And we got to, as soon as they make the slightest mistake, we have to let them know that they did it so we don't. There's if you, I don't know, like what, like we're on the internet, you guys be on, but there's so many, if you can't be on the internet too long, you just hear bad stuff happening to kids, and it just sucks. And I'm willing to go really hard on people doing little dumb stuff that they shouldn't be doing. If it means kids are safe, I'm more than willing to do that. If you can hate me for it, I don't care.
In this is he like the person was over the age of 18? He then goes on to say, "Am I a fucking pedophile?" The answer is no. I am bewildered. Like, I don't know what to say to this. This feels like manipulation at its finest, and it goes back to what we were talking about before, which is he's gonna take a vacation, he's gonna go away, he's gonna return in 3 months, he's gonna do a hey, I'm back stream. It's gonna have so many fucking viewers, and he's gonna make so much money off of it, and he's gonna continue to be successful as somebody who was pursuing a minor. Cool.
But the intentions weren't real. You know what I mean?
The messages that just happen to lean into the direction of being inappropriate. Come on, man.
God, we've all watched To Catch a Predator.
I was gonna say, dude, this feels like the script.
Oh, I was just coming to hang out.
Why don't you have a
this
seat?
bags of condoms didn't mean nothing.
Why don't you have a seat? And I have the chat logs. I was just messing around.
Yeah.
I was just messing around.
If I ever have,
this is the fucking goddamn script to Catch a Predator.
Like, hey, I was lied to about the age. Nope, he's just
no, I wasn't lied to. I got inappropriate.
if you have any friends that are, I don't know how old Dr. Disrespect is. I imagine at least over 30. If you have any friends that are Dr. Disrespect's age and they have messages with minors or a minor that lean in the direction of being inappropriate, get them the fuck out of here. What the fuck? Like, what the fuck is happening? Anyway, this is a bad statement. Get him the fuck out of here. 42? Jesus Christ.
Number 3 on the Roper Report. Ubisoft says Beyond Good and Evil 2 is still coming. Beyond Good and Evil tweeted, yes, Beyond Good and Evil 2 is still in development, and we cannot wait for
You know
to
what's
discover.
funny? You know what would really save us from cancel culture was a real thing? It'd be people accepting when they did something wrong, doing a real apology, and declining to do that behavior ever again. That's the only way to do it. People are still gonna get mad when you do. There's just like there's too much grooming, man. A lot of it is more unintentional than it is intentional. It's more people going. They're just in the moment, or they don't understand the consequences of what they're doing in the moment, and then kind of later go going, "Well, I didn't really do anything wrong." It's more of that, and we need to get people to stop themselves. That's what we need to focus on. That's every problem. There's so many problems. Like even this incel stuff. If you stop hating women and thinking they're destroying the world and focus more on yourself, even if you never get with a woman, that's somehow, because I know that's not going to be every incel. That's because that's not every person. There's people who aren't incels who don't end up dying alone or whatever. My point is, if you focus more on yourself, you'll get out of that hole. And you won't even, it's not even that you won't necessarily care. You'll have other things going on in your life. And your life will be better eventually.
Now you're asking for it. At your location.
Got it. Watch for hostiles, people.
Oh, that is it!
This area is being recorded for GBB. Here's a lesson for you.
I'm not the only one that saw that, right? Huh?
I don't know why I felt the need to do that, but I definitely did do it.
This area is being recorded by the GBB.
Also, a weird thing. I think the age of consent is not so. Because I don't think you can get in trouble if you're under the age of 18, you have sex with somebody else under the age of 18. Unless there's a wide gap or you just in a ridiculous. Like you're.
Pursuing the suspect.
Like, I don't know. Like, if you're
Britain's first news network.
10 years old and you have sex with another 10-year-old, can you get in trouble for that? I don't think so. I think what the age of consent is, there are some things that are looked at as a crime. It need to be, when you're over 18, you need to be,
First on the scene, first to bring you the news.
I can't think of what the word is, but you need to go to court and whatever the word is I'm looking for. It need to be dealt with in the court. And I think when you're under the age of 18, it's a bit, they work different. So you need to deal with them different.
First on the scene,
And
first to bring
also,
you the news.
you gotta do something with that. There's gotta be like a age where we can't deal with these the same way anymore because we have to look at them as an adult. And you have to deal with like, okay, what if they're with someone who's younger than them? Like it's a
By the GBB.
that's what it's about. It's definitely not so someone who's definitely an adult can sleep with someone who's not an adult. But it's also not necessarily because like it doesn't make any sense. If you're 17 and 17, that's not illegal to have sex with another 17-year-old. It's probably like, but what if I think rape if you're 17, you rape another 17-year-old, it's different than if an 18-year-old raped a 17-year-old or an adult raped a 17. You see what I'm saying? I think that's what the age of consent laws. I would love to talk to somebody about that. Right.
Lucky day, lucky day.
It's still not clear yet.
Keep it up. We're on their tail. Over. I like this. I like this a lot.
Who are you?
I'm the Flash. Wait, do you not know who I am?
I'm not so sure.
Hey, I'm Barry Allen. I'm the fastest man alive. I also think that I am on the wrong Earth. I'm gonna need your help.
I'm in pursuit of the target.
Well, this just made my day. Whoa, would you look at that?
Right.
I can't do anything until the stupid alert goes away.
Consider my
It's
favorite
not.
mate.
That's some good shit.
I suppose things could always be worse, couldn't they?
Bloody it's a nightmare.
There is a god. Received. We are trailing the target.
Impressive. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
I'll try to do it out here, see if it makes a difference.
Negative. No vision of the suspect. Control, we're returning to HQ.
Ooh.
Over.
Hey everybody, this is Russ from Metro Game Core. Today we're going to do an updated review video of the Lenovo Legion Go. It's been about 6 months at this point, and I always like to check in these devices around this time frame just to see how everything is going. And we have seen quite a few updates from Lenovo as well as the community, although to be honest, most of the updates have come from the community at this point. Now we're going to break up this video into 3 different chunks. The first is going to be some of the things that I've acclimated to or appreciated about the Legion Go in my time with it. So for example, maybe I was lukewarm about one of their features, but now I've grown to like it, so we'll talk about that. For the second part, I want to talk about all of the things that I've had to physically do to the Legion Go in order to make me appreciate
may
it
die
more.
permanently.
That could
Why
be
would
things
that be
like
a
improving
straight?
the controls or the
That's
audio,
crazy.
or even some of the video settings as well. So we'll go over each of those tips and tricks. And then finally, we'll wrap it up with some of the things I think that Lenovo could
I'm
do
trying to
to
remember, who
enhance
did
the
I
device
wanna-
even further. Some of these are things that just the community
doctor,
wouldn't be able to
where's
do
the doctor
themselves,
at?
and so we need help from Lenovo to make this thing better. And I think it's perfect timing because we're just starting to hear about the new ROG Ally that's going to be coming out later this year. It's going to be called the Ally X. And I would say that the Ally X is more of a refresh than anything. It has the same chip and screen, but everything
Just
else
call
has
it
been
2. Don't put
improved,
an X in
including
front
the
of it.
battery. And so I'm excited to see
Make
that.
names for
And
these
we'll
weird
probably hear a lot
products.
about it in the coming
Makes
months.
sense.
So I think it's a great
It's bad
time
enough
to figure out
Xbox
a
fucked
new
it up when they're
baseline
just a
for
console
Legion
maker.
Go and see how it
Now
stacks
you
up
guys are
against
doing the
all
same
other
thing.
competition. Okay, so let's jump right in and start talking about the things
It should
that I
never
like about
reasonably
this
go
device. Some of these
product-
things I liked
product
before and just
X.
like better now, but others are things that are a little bit more unexpected. One of those are the haptics. Now, I remember the Rumble being pretty good on these, but the more I played it, the more I appreciated it. Now, I'm keeping these at just like the default medium settings, and that seems to be the perfect amount. It's almost like they're more subtle than other devices. They have a bit of a more high-pitched register to them, as opposed to like a low
drive
rumble.
now enabled.
And so I really like
Okay,
that
now I'm
feeling.
seeing
It
why I
doesn't
get
feel like the
confused with this
control
game.
is, like,
There's
shaking
2
in my hands,
different
but
track
rather
buttons.
I'm
There's
just feeling
one
like
that makes
nuanced touch feedback.
the icon
One of
highlight,
the
and
best
then there's a
examples
GPS
is Animal Well. This game just came out. It's a
version.
Metroidvania style game. I'm really enjoying it. And this one, every time that you jump and then land, you get a little bit of a like boop, kind of like
Auto drive
haptic
now
feedback.
disabled.
And it feels really natural and nice. And so this is a control scheme that I don't really remember much when I did my initial testing, but now that I've played it against other devices, I've decided that I really like the haptics here. Another thing that I like about the device are the face buttons. Now, I liked these face buttons in my previous reviews, I remember that, but I just like them a lot more. Maybe it's because I've been testing a bunch of other devices where maybe the face buttons weren't the best, but these just feel really punchy. They have a rubber membrane connection, but have a really nice tactile feedback. A good example
like
is going to
the
be when
nothing.
playing
Oh.
Hades. So this is a game where I just mash on the face buttons most of the time, and I found it to be a perfect fit for this game. In fact, it's one of my favorite ways to play Hades right now. Another thing I've come to like even more about the Legion
There it
Go
is.
is that
You can
big
hack in
screen.
from there.
This thing is 8.8 inches with a 16:10 aspect ratio and a
That's not-
1600p resolution. This just gives you so many different options. You can play it in tabletop mode. You can even play games that have like small little text. It's going to look fine here. Now, most of the time I don't play it in 1600p just because that requires a lot of power to push that many pixels, but having a 1600p resolution gives us a lot of other scaling options, which we'll talk about later in this video. Another thing that comes with having a larger screen is the ability to have larger controls, and I've always felt that this device is pretty roomy, but I don't know, after comparing it against other devices over the past few months, it just feels even roomier, especially when we use some of the 3D printed grips that we'll talk about later in this video. The control scheme and just the overall feel of this device is just super comfortable. It doesn't feel like a compromise when it comes to size, as opposed to other handhelds that might feel a little bit cramped. So in particular, if you have larger hands, I think this is a
Right
really
here
good
waiting
fit.
for you, man.
Another physical characteristic that I really like about the Legion Go is the battery life. So this has a 49 or 49.2 watt hour battery, and that will give you, depending on the performance profile, at least an hour and 45 minutes, worst case scenario, and then it'll get better from there depending on that profile. And so I love the idea of being able to play this at a full 20 watt TDP to really push that performance as much as you can, but still getting a good hour and 45 minutes of gameplay out of that. It's right at that spot of x86 handheld where I don't really worry about the battery life, because if I put it in like power saving mode, I can get 3, even 4 hours of gameplay out of this device, even though it has a huge screen. And so I've really liked just that whole experience of being able to play this for a good chunk of time compared to other handhelds. So those are all the physical characteristics about the Legion Go that I really like, but there are a couple software related things that have been updated or just are things that I appreciate. So the first is going to be that they've updated the Legion Space app a couple times over the past 6 months, and one of those has been a pretty significant one for my own quality of life. What they've done is they've changed it out so that the menu buttons or the hotkey buttons up top no longer are the Legion Space buttons, but you can actually map them to be the select and start buttons. And for me, that was a big deal when I first was reviewing this device, because my hands just naturally wanted to go up there for select and start, much like how it is on other devices like the Nintendo Switch. So what they've done is they've swapped that out. So now the buttons on the bottom left, which typically were supposed to be used for select and start, can now be swapped around, and that makes it so much easier. Not only does it make the select and start buttons easier to press, but then also the menu buttons, you know, the Legion Space buttons, those you're not going to use as often, and so I like the fact that they're kind of pushed away into a corner. And I feel like this has a secondary effect in that the Legion Space app kind of gets out of your way. It's no longer in the forefront. Because you have to physically like put your thumb down to actually press the button and bring it up, it just becomes more of an afterthought. And that's the way I want this front-end software to work. I want to just jump into my games. I don't want to have to go through the Legion Space menu if I don't want to. So it makes it really great if I want to open up the sidebar to be able to change out like the TDP or maybe the screen brightness. But then if I don't want to even worry about it, I can just forget it completely, and I think that's awesome. Another thing I've come to appreciate are the different power profiles. I think they work really well on the Legion Go. Some of this comes from the fact that I had just spent a bunch of time testing the MSI Claw, and I was pretty unhappy with how everything was calibrated there. When I went back to the Legion Go, it felt like a breath of fresh air. There are 3 different modes. You have your quiet and balanced and performance modes. The quiet mode will give you around an 8 watt TDP, balance will be around 15 watts, and then performance will be 20 watts. Now each of these will go up as you plug the device in, but that's usually kind of the amount that you can think about when it comes to the power profile. And I found that these 3 profiles really match up to the way that I like to play. I usually will keep it in the balance mode just because that will give me about 2+ hours of battery life, but then also if I really want to push it, I can go and do the performance mode. Say I've only got an hour to play, I might as well play in the best mode possible. But then also if I want to play like a lightweight game and I'm going to play it for a longer stint, I can throw it into that quiet mode, and it just seems to be perfectly balanced. There's never been a time where I felt like, oh man, I can't find the right setting. There's a manual setting, I could always do that myself, but I found that the 3 defaults seem to work pretty well for most games. I also like that right there on the front menu, they have the OS power mode options. What I usually will typically do is keep this on the efficiency option. This means that you'll have a better balance between the CPU and GPU power profiles, but then also if I'm going to be doing something more CPU intensive emulation, I can throw it into the performance mode, and that's going to enhance that performance there. And so it does kind of give you the best of both worlds, and I love the fact that I can just access it from the quick menu right then and there. And so yeah, that's a quick summary of all the things I've really started to like about the Legion Go a little bit more than before. Some of these are hardware things that I've just come to appreciate and acclimate myself to, and then there have been other things that I think can be improved with the Legion Go, and for some of these I had to take matters into my own hands. So let's go over each of those. Let's start with the controls. I talked about these quite extensively in my reviews, but I never really liked the flat feeling of the front of those controllers. It just felt like it was a little bit too cornered off, and so it had a bit of a sharp feeling in my palm, and it just didn't feel very comfortable. One of the things that I had hoped is that Lenovo would make new controller attachments to it. I even tried to talk to them about that at CES earlier this year. They weren't really interested in talking to me at the time. They had a lot of other products that they were releasing, so they weren't really in Legion Go mode at that point. And so unfortunately I wasn't able to convey some of those things. But luckily the community has really stepped up and provided better solutions. So there are 4 different 3D printed things that I've bought from Etsy over the past few months, and these have really enhanced my gameplay experience. The first are what they call comfort grips. And essentially these are just controller covers that you will snap into place. They do make it a little bit more bulky, but it actually feels very comfortable, and then it smooths out those corners that I always had issues with. And so the installation process is super simple. You just snap them into place, and the materials here are pretty nice. They even have like a bumpy texture on the back. Now, when you look at these comfort grips, it looks like, okay, they're just a little bit of a bumper or a lip around the edges of it, but they've been perfectly crafted, so they're nice and soft and rounded, and your whole hand will rest on those parts, so it feels cohesive with the entire controller. And it's one of those things where it's hard to convey just how good of an improvement this actually is. I would even go as far as to say it is transformative. It went from the point where every time that I picked up the Legion Go, I was like, gosh, I wish they would make new controllers, to the point where I just don't even think about it anymore. I pick it up and go, man, this is a good device. And considering the fact that I was so lukewarm about this device in general before, and now I look forward to picking it up, all because of these like $20-something grips, is kind of an amazing experience. Another complaint I had about the Legion Go is that there are a bunch of buttons on it, all over the back and whatnot, and I would always press these accidentally. And even though they are turned off when you're just playing it in handheld mode, it was always very distracting, because I felt like, oh, I'm pushing this button, even though it's not doing anything, it felt like I was messing up. Now with these comfort grips, they cover up those buttons. You can still press on them if you need to, but they're a lot harder to press down on. It means that you have to be a little bit more deliberate. And as a result, you won't press them accidentally. And so even though these comfort grips do a lot of great things when it comes to just the overall roundedness and just the feel of it, it also enhances it in that regard as well, in the sense that I'm not accidentally pressing these buttons. It now feels like a cohesive handheld. And so yeah, I'm really impressed with these comfort grips. I'll leave all this stuff linked down below, but I just wanted to really emphasize the fact that these are super good. I don't know if I've ever spent $22 to improve a handheld PC as much as I did with these. Now, another thing I've enjoyed about the Legion Go controllers is the fact that they are detachable. That does give you a wide variety of different controller options. Now, most of the time I'll just kind of pull them off and use them like Joy-Cons, where I'm just kind of holding them like this. But there are also attachments, again from the same Etsy store, that allow you to kind of create your own controller out of it, and I think this is pretty good too. Now this attachment is a little bit cheaper, it's only $18, and I found that this works pretty well if you are going to be playing, for example, in tabletop mode. So if you want to prop this up on a table, but then have something that's more like a controller experience without having to bring a third-party controller around with you, this is going to be a great solution. I also like that these are a little bit angled in, it makes it more ergonomic, and then when you combine it with those comfort grips that we were talking about earlier, it is a really good experience. And this is also one of the things that made me appreciate the fact that these controllers are kind of hard to get on and off, because once you snap them into place, it does feel like a cohesive controller. It's not like a Joy-Con where you snap it into something and it just kind of feels a little bit loose and wobbly. It's not like that at all. This is like a single piece of controller, and it feels pretty great. Okay, I bought one more thing from this Etsy store. Again, I'll have this stuff linked down below. I think this guy's going to get quite a few sales after this video. This thing is called the FPS mode trigger grip. Now essentially this is a cap that you'll put on top of the controller when you put it in FPS mode. Now I like the idea of FPS mode, but there are a lot of things I didn't like about it. Number one is just how it feels in the hand. For example, you have to pull off the right analog stick, and there's still going to be a little bit of a nub there, and so when you're squeezing it, you can feel the nub pushing against your hand. So I never really liked that experience. In addition, the sharp angle of that corner is still going to be there, and so it just feels a little bit weird that one side is flat and the other side is round, and it's the opposite of the way that your hand is structured, and so it's always felt a little bit weird. Now this trigger grip basically removes all of those issues because it covers up that little stick nub, and then also it just has a more rounded experience. It's definitely a fatter feel, like it feels like you're holding something a lot bigger, but all the same, it's pretty neat in that regard. Now, I'm probably the worst person to demonstrate FPS mode in the world. This whole keyboard and mouse thing has never worked for me. I've been trying for 20 plus years. I'm left-handed, and so there's a lot of things that just kind of get in the way when it comes to me using with a mouse and keyboard. And so FPS mode just doesn't make a lot of sense for my hands either. And so unfortunately, I'm not good at using it this way, but I can see the merit in it. And so if you do play your Legion Go in FPS mode, I think it's a really low risk in the fact that it's like $19 to try it out and see if you're going to like it. For me, I love first-person shooter games, but I play them with dual analog sticks. You know, the first Halo really kind of set me on that path, and I've never really gotten off it since then. Okay, the fourth accessory that I bought on Etsy to improve my Legion Go experience is this one. It's called the Lenovo Legion Go Tate Shmup Vertical Portrait Controller Adapter. And that's definitely a mouthful, but I think it's self-explanatory. It's essentially a 3D printed bracket that you can put your Legion Go into and then attach the controllers into it so you can play games vertically. And the quality here is really good. It just slides right into place. It is perfectly form-fitting. It also has a little arm brace on the back so you can flip this up once you slid it into place, and then that will latch it together so that it won't fall out. Now, from a software perspective, we have a couple different approaches. The first would be just to leave it in the regular display orientation, and then when you start up RetroArch to play arcade games, they have Tate mode already within the core options. So you can turn that on, and then any vertical game will show up vertically. And one of the benefits of using a Legion Go oriented like this is that you don't have to remap the controls, because the controls are still going to stay the same. It's the screen that's rotating, unlike a dedicated handheld where you kind of orient everything over to one side. And so it does make it a much more seamless experience, and I've really appreciated that. And so if you are a fan of vertically oriented shmups on arcade, this is a really great fit right here, and well worth the $35 in order to have a more enhanced experience. It's pretty amazing how much of the screen it's going to fill up, and it just looks super awesome. Now, another thing you could do is just rotate the display into portrait mode. After all, this is a native portrait display, and so you're almost playing it naturally at that point. So I've been doing that when I'm playing, for example, DS or 3DS games, because these will have the up and down orientation already set up. And so you can just go into Citra, for example, and then play your favorite 3DS games this way. Now, I would say it's not a perfect experience just because the top screen on 3DS is a little bit wider, and so it does look a little bit disorienting, but all the same, I think it looks a little bit better and plays a little bit better than playing it horizontally. One thing of note, if you do pick this up, there are two different options to choose from. One is called the Bare Device Fit, and the other one is called the Skin Protector Fit. Now, I got the Bare Device Fit because I wasn't planning on getting a skin,
Oh, well,
then I ended up getting a skin.
the
I learned the hard way that, yeah,
Autodrive
it's a little bit too
now
tight if you have the Bare Device Fit. So if you do plan on getting like the D-brand skin or a screen protector, then definitely get that second option instead. And another thing that I did to try to enhance the experience with the Legion Go is bought some skins. D-brand first announced these back when the Legion Go first came out, and I bought one. It was a little bit slim pickings at the time in terms of design, but there are a bunch of new designs out there, and some of these look pretty great. And it's about $25 or $30 for the skin, depending on the design that you get. And I bought mine a long time ago, but I only recently put it on. And I found that I didn't really want to put a skin on the front. I like the idea of just having it on the back, as you can see right here. In fact, I've been calling this my mullet skin, the idea that this is business up front, where you can play your games, and then there's a party in the back. And the skins are also sectional, so there's a back piece, and then the top, the bottom, and then also some for your controller. And for me, I've just left it on the back and the bottom. I did have it on the top, but like I mentioned before, I got the smaller adapter for the vertical thing, and so because of that, it scratched up the top, and so I ended up taking off the top part of the skin. Either way, if you do plan on getting a skin, make sure that you get that larger bracket size if you are going to get the vertical adapter as well. I think it's a good fit, it's just a matter of me not following instructions. And I gotta be honest, some of these new D-brand designs are looking pretty good, so I might end up buying one of these and then a new adapter as well. Okay, and finally, the last thing that I've been using in terms of accessories for the Legion Go is this sling bag. This is from TomTalk, and it's 5.5 liters. Now, in full disclosure, they did send this out for me to test out, and initially it was supposed to be for the Steam Deck, but I found that it was a little bit too big for the Steam Deck. Like, it had just too much space, and I thought to myself, this might actually be a great fit for the Legion Go because of all these accessories that it have. And it turns out that, yeah, this is a great fit. Now, this is not a cheap bag. This thing is $68, although there are quite a few coupons that you can find on Amazon. Either way, I would consider this to be an upgraded bag. In fact, it has quite a few features that I haven't seen on their products before, like these quick-release tabs here for the strap. And honestly, in terms of size, it is not that much larger than the original case that comes with the Legion Go. I think the case that comes with it is just fine, but it feels very bulky. This one from TomTalk is also bulky, in fact a little bit bulkier, but it's bulky with a purpose in the fact that everything makes a lot more sense. For example, right on the front we have a zippered pouch that has a bunch of extra sub pockets within it, and so you've got a lot of place to put things right here. We've got a similar setup on the back. This is just one big pocket, so if you want something kind of closer to your bag, like a wallet or a passport, you can throw that in here. And then finally, on the inside, we've got a ton of storage. On the far end, we've got like a place for the device itself, but then also we've got a couple other pouches right next to it. I've been detaching the controllers and then putting them within here. On the other side of the inner compartment, we have another pouch. This is also going to be zipped in, so you can put things like that hockey puck or maybe an additional accessory as well. And then finally, even after you've put all that stuff in there, you've got a bunch of space in the center. This can be for like the power plug or maybe some of these other 3D printed grips. And so if you do plan on traveling with the Legion Go, I would definitely say that you should consider something like this TomTalk bag, just because it gives you so many other options to store other things, unlike the big bulky case that comes with the Legion Go. Okay, so those are the accessories I've been using to enhance the experience with the Legion Go, and some of these have been really transformative, especially those 3D printed grips. Now, there have been other things I've been doing on the software side to also improve things. We'll start with the audio. Now, if you remember, the sound profile on the Legion Go is some of the worst that I've ever heard out of the box, especially for a device that's $750. The speakers themselves are upward firing, which is kind of awkward, but then also the sound profile is terrible. Like, it's really tinny, and then also it just lacks a lot of bass as well, and so it's not a pleasant listening experience. Now, for me, I've been doing two different things in tandem to improve the experience. The first is to go into the Realtek Audio Console. This will be pre-built into the Windows environment on your device, so you don't have to install anything extra. So just search for this within your Windows settings and you will find it pop up. And if you look under the speaker setting, by default, the audio profile will be set to the powerful equalizer setting. And I'm not sure why this is set by default, but you can see that, yeah, it basically removes all that mid-range and bassy tone. So what I've been doing instead is changing it to the club profile. This will actually boost the mids and the bassy tones a little bit more than you would think, because it's actually a little bit muffled at that point, but we will then enhance it with a third-party software application after this. Anyway, I'll shut up for a moment so you can hear what it's like before and then after.
You want jobs, not promises!
What up, Force users? It's your favorite StarTuber Jedi 1502E1D906. Today we're talking about the hottest game, Star Wars Outbound, Star Wars Hunters. Everybody who knows about games knows that one of the hottest games is Overwatch. Everywhere you look, people are talking about Overwatch, about how good it is and how excited they are for the co-op mode, which they never even started on and then canceled. So here comes this George Lucas man who used to do the graphics for LucasArts. George loves Overwatch, but he hates the character Symmetra. So he says, look, I'm gonna redo this Overwatch game without Symmetra, and I'm gonna add in the legendary Mon Calamari prodigy Sprocket to play as, and thus a new sensation is born. You can't walk 13 feet without hearing about the Star Hunter game. My uncle's dentist is talking about how his kids want to dress up like Aaron Towle for Halloween. They truly spared no expense with this one. Every character has their own logo.
Is this video game done?
Let's wait around and see if this weapons dealer shows up.
He passes humor for some reason. That's dumb.
Our potential recruit has been trying to take down a nearby Clan Kelly weapons dealer. You could hack their optic to download incriminating data on them.
Be careful now. Hey, big!
I've downloaded evidence of the illegal weapons sale. I'll send it along to our prospect and let them decide how to deal with it. On that subject, I have.
What's his story, Bags?
He's an active.
Need to eat. There's some stuff around the house. I'll be back.